Welcome back to The Rebel's Edge. I'm Jon Najarian, and I'm here at the Wall Street Conference. There it is. Wall Street Conference is a whole bunch of small cap, mid cap companies that present at this conference in Palm Beach, Florida. So we got the president right over there to my right with Mar-a-Lago, and to the left we've got I-95, the road that Pete hates because he hates riding on that road. But we've got the Rebel's Edge. We've got a lot of great info. We're coming your way right after this. Bang. Bang. It's a big, beautiful convention center, Pete, or as the president would say, it's a big, beautiful center. It's here in Palm Beach.
We got to get my son-in-law on here sometime, John. He does Trump as good as I've ever seen. It's a beautiful thing. It's a big, beautiful thing.
There's all these fans down here in Florida. They know. You got to come here.
That's great.
But anyway, folks, don't tune out. Don't tune out. I know not everybody is a fan, and that's okay.
Yep.
Because it is a republic and a democracy. It's kind of both in one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, welcome to the Rebel's Edge. He, of course, is Pete Najarian, wearing his legendary gear from Shadur Sanders. Or is that Shadur, Pete?
Shadur might be in trouble.
So, Pete, in about 4 hours, I will be on stage with Ray Lewis,
Nice.
of course, Hall of Fame linebacker.
Yep.
Got a whole bunch of notes here scribbled down to talk with Ray about, his tough upbringing, going to University of Miami with one pair of jeans, Pete, no underwear, and 3 T-shirts and a box of pencils. And he turned it from that into a Hall of Fame career, into a great entrepreneur and so forth. And obviously, and Pete was lucky enough to hang with him at a Super Bowl up in Minneapolis. Not too long ago. So
we were sharing a cigar bar. That was awesome. It was a great time.
Well, so I'll get that. I'll get Tim Draper, the guy that bought all those Bitcoins from Silk Road, and the business of sports. I'm going to have a nice panel on the business of sports, Pete. Guys that have bought WNBA franchises. That's brave. That's brave. There's only one that I'd want, and that's the one that one Caitlin Clark plays for, Indiana. But anyway, let's talk about the markets today, Pete. We'll dive right in, as we usually do, folks, with the macro minute. And I'm going to say that an unexpected rise in UK, that's United Kingdom, inflation, it accelerated to 3.5%, Pete. Even as ours has been going down, theirs is now going up, which kind of takes another rate cut by the Bank of England off the table. What do you have for macro?
Yeah, I found that one interesting. I knew you were going to go there. We don't oftentimes exchange this, but so I decided to go right back to earnings season, John, and take a look at what some of the disappointments are and how that might be reflected in the different ETFs that trade out there and so forth. United Health, though, again, now that one getting a downgrade, certainly pulling the markets again, specifically affecting the Dow because it has such an influence over there. I think from a macro perspective, the earnings today or last night, not really cutting it all that great. Now, that doesn't mean all of them, but I think that's part of it as well, because that's giving a little bit of a feeling of a cascade of sellers today.
Yeah, and even so, though, Pete, we've seen the NASDAQ kind of turn back to the upside. S&P, I mean, all of them are off the lows. So we'll see. It seems like every time they hit the market, there's some people now that are buying on those dips, whereas a month ago, they would just keep selling it throughout the day. So it's a little bit different right now. From the fantastic futures side of things, Pete, I'm going to say that crude oil looks like it wants to roll over again to me. And here I am in South Florida, and it's 305 at the gas stations here, which is pretty dang cheap. Yeah. It's cheaper in Puerto Rico, but we don't tax it as much as they do in the United States. But what do you have for unusual futures today, Pete?
Well, just a real quick hit on the VIX, and then I'll give you one other. But the VIX is interesting because of the fact that it's sitting in a range, John, that has become very, very tight. Call it 1850 up to a little over 19 and a quarter. So that's a very tight little window that they've got there. Last I looked, it was trading around 1860. But, John, I was looking at platinum, and it's hitting 52-week highs. It's absolutely ripping to the upside. And you know, there's some decent reasons why that's happening, I suppose. You know, catalytic converters, that's one of them. Clean energy, that's another one. Jewelry, that's another one. So there's some reasons behind why this has been moving to the upside. And it's really interesting to see this hitting 52-week highs and then hitting even a little bit higher. It just seems to keep bouncing. I saw it look like it was going to pull back, but then it just ripped up again. So interesting to see what's happening with palladium right now.
Well, as usual, we're going to dive into stocks, Pete, and I'm going to kick it off with Keysight. KEYS is the symbol. It's not far off the high of the day. It's up about 5% right now. Was up, I guess, as high as 6% on an initial pop, but the numbers here look pretty darn good. They topped expectations. They reiterated full year guidance of 5 to 7% growth, despite some of the macroeconomic issues that we address every day, whether it's tariffs or whether it's people pulling back a little bit. But overall, I'd say this is a pretty strong report out of KEYS, Pete.
Absolutely it is, John. I think it is as well. And then you look at the fact that they've got a healthy pipeline, so I think you're looking into the future when you're looking at that. The stock is not too far off the 52-week highs. It was 186 today. It's been trading somewhere around that 170 area, and I think that's deservedly so. This stock is absolutely moving in the right, for all the right reasons. When you look at the beats at the top and the bottom, what they were able to do with the guidance and all the rest of it, John, was the earnings that they put out there, was that strong enough? It wasn't quite there, but you know what, on the guide, but it still looked pretty good. And the fact that this is trading at a 23 PE, I think this is a great opportunity. I think this is a stock that certainly can hit that 52-week high at some point in the not too distant future and then establish a new 52-week high, because they are doing everything the right way. And that pipeline, I think, says a lot to me for the future.
Well, this will be a tough one for Pete, folks, because Pete's good friends with the CEO of Target, Brian Cornell. It's Cornell, isn't it? Or is it Connell?
Nope, Cornell. Yep.
Cornell, like the university. Yeah. Tough for Pete because every once in a while, he and Cornell go out and have a dinner together and so forth. And I think he needs probably a good stiff one after this one, Pete, because shares were down as much as 6%. They're only down 4% right now. But nonetheless, they cut full year outlook. It's something you can't just shrug off when that happens. And comparable sales year over year, Pete, down 3.8%.
Yeah.
Worse than the basically 1.9%. In other words, they were twice as bad as expectations. And I think this is going to be a little bit of a tough environment for them with what Walmart said about having to pass on some of the tariff markups. Pete, what do you think?
And Brian talked about the tariff uncertainty, which a lot of folks have talked about that. They missed on the earnings in a big way. They miss on the revenue in another big way. You talked about the comp sales being down nearly 4%, 3.8%. That's not so great. You put out a forecast, John, that is not even close to what they were looking for before, sure. and that's terrible. But I think that if you want to hang your hat on any one thing, their digital sales actually were up. So that was one thing. But that's about it. You look through these numbers and you just can't find anything that actually makes any sense. Store sales down 5.7%. Everywhere I look, the only other thing that looks pretty good, but for a reason it looks that way, is the PE. The PE of Target presently is trading at a 10 on the forward PE, John. So Is it inexpensive? Yeah, it probably should be inexpensive right now because of what's going on and some of the talk about the tariffs and into the future. And I think that's going to be a problem for them. That's something Walmart was able to move away from, and it didn't affect them this last quarter, but they keep on sort of teasing everybody. Hey, we don't know. Walmart's given that sort of prediction of, what are we going to do? We're going to have to raise prices. And meanwhile, President Trump is like, no, you don't. You've made billions. So he's been in a feud with the CFO of Walmart. But in terms of Target, yeah, the only positive that you can take away at all, John, is the fact that their digital sales were up. Other than that, it's a really horrendous quarter they put up.
Well, not such a great quarter really for Palo Alto Networks either, Pete, PANW. Even though revenue, obviously, we know that means sales, were up 15% year over year. That's a bell ringer. That's a good thing. Support and subscription revenue also up 15% and 16% respectively. But there are some things in this that aren't quite as good, Pete. And Palo Alto happens to trade at a PE about 10 times that of Target, Pete. So if you're getting a PE up there in the triple digits, you pretty much got to hit on absolutely everything to justify that kind of price to earnings ratio. And apparently they didn't this quarter.
They did not. They absolutely did not. As you mentioned, year over year, the revenue looked good, which is the metric I'd rather look at. But they just missed on too many things, John, and that's a problem, obviously. I still like looking at their balance sheet. I'm sitting there looking at the cash to debt. They've got $2.5 billion, so that's a big positive for me as well in terms of the balance sheet. But they also have something, and this could be a positive into the future, but their next generation security recurring revenue of up about 54%, John, year over year. So that's something that I think that if we're looking for anything to kind of hold, hang your hat on about this report that they're putting out there, I think that would be one of the biggest of them all. But to your point, this stock down 6%, it probably deserves to be down 6% or wherever it might be right now because things are moving very quickly. But, that guide didn't help at all. And that's going to be a problem for them probably for the next couple of days.
Yeah, you can't overcome that just by saying, oh, look over there.
Yeah.
And they can't blame all of it on the tariffs either.
Right.
But like you said, a couple days worth of hits, if they knock this thing down into the high 170s, Pete, I'm getting interested again. It's, I think, 184, 185 today. All right, let's talk about XPEV because this is an EV maker, of course, Chinese EV maker. They beat Q1 expectations, and they were roughly, Pete, 142% year over year revenue jump. I'm going to repeat, 142% sales jump. That's pretty phenomenal. Now, these guys, are they a Tesla competitor? Oh, you bet they are. But this is, again, Chinese EVs that aren't going to make it to our shore, Pete. Legitimately, they're not going to be sold in this country, but they do control an awful lot of the market in China.
They have a really big, strong balance sheet, John. That's a positive. The stock didn't get to the highs yet, but it's 22. It's up about 12%. Not so bad. When you look at the deliveries, up 330%. I mean, you gave us a revenue number that sounded outstanding. And all of a sudden you look at the deliveries and you're like, well, holy smokes. And by the way, they even had a guidance, John. Their expected deliveries for Q2 is going to be up 237% year over year. So are these guys clicking? I think they are. I think they're hitting everything. And this is completely the opposite of what we were talking about some of the other stocks where you couldn't find anything positive like Target. In this one, you can find just about anything and anywhere you look. They absolutely knocked this one out of the park. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is a stock that can have some pretty good legs to the upside, depending on how things go with tariffs. Obviously, they have to deal with it just like we do. But I think that's something that could be pretty interesting, John.
Well, no doubt about that, Pete.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit of sports, shall we? Now, we don't have a streaming tease to give you guys today as we started off, but let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the NFL right now, Pete.
Yeah, well, they have these meetings that they have in the NFL, and they're having one right now, as a matter of fact. And one of the discussions is the tush push, and they're going to vote on this. Now, everybody, we have fun with that whole thing, but the rest of the NFL doesn't find it all that funny that Philadelphia, and by the way, it's not just Philadelphia, it's Buffalo. Matter of fact, John, if you combine both Philadelphia and Buffalo combined, 163 different pushes in 3 years with the tush push as what they're doing. And some of the arguments, I think, are somewhat reasonable. If you're talking about the health of players, I think you have to respect that and decide, is this something that is something that could get people hurt in a big way, maybe more often than not. I don't think we're seeing that, though, right? I mean, I don't recall seeing any of that, John. So I think overall, it seems like it's been something that everybody says, well, they're going to get hurt. Well, so far, so good. It hasn't really happened just yet. But I like what they're doing. They're giving it to the crowd. The Packers are the folks that actually really made the biggest fuss over it, John. They're the ones that went in for the proposal to say, hey, look, let's cut this whole thing. This is ridiculous. What do you think about this whole thing? I know one thing, and then I'll let you answer that, John. There was always a rule when you played, there was a rule that you cannot advance players. They're kind of advancing a player, aren't they?
Yep.
So I just wonder, I see both sides of this one. I don't know where they're going to land. I don't even really care that much, but it is some good fodder because everybody wants to talk about the tush push.
Well, and the predictive markets are still saying they will not ban the tush push, Pete.
Right.
Will not. And I think to Pete's point, they should easily give it another year before they make that decision. And here's one of the big reasons why, Pete. There's a kid named Watson playing at, I think, Desmond Watson. He's playing at your old creamsicle place, Pete, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Bucks.
Pete's got some creamsicle jerseys on the wall behind him, folks. Those old Tampa Bay dreamsicle, creamsicle, whatever it was. But this kid is 6'6", 464 pounds.
The draft pick out of Florida or whatever, free agent, maybe, whatever he was.
Biggest NFL player ever. And he's a defensive lineman. And you know what they're going to do, Pete? They're going to put him head up on the center for the tush push. Not to have him do the push, but to have him repel the push. Because if you can move a 464-pound man mountain like Desmond Watson, that's going to be a pretty tall order for anybody. And he's been practicing with Tampa Bay, Pete. I'm very interested to see if anybody can do the tush push if that kid's on the field.
John, ironically, he's actually carried the ball on the offensive side as well at Florida.
Yep. Yes, he has.
So he's kind of both sides of this whole thing. So it really could play in. By the way, the tackle next to him, the other defensive tackle that's next to him is about 365. So I think they've got plenty of weight sitting there on the Tampa side, going to be able to stuff up that middle, I think, in a big way. Next up, John, I wanted to go to college football, and here's where, real quick, and this is right up your alley. Deion Sanders, Colorado. Their record is 13-12 for the 2 seasons he's been there. So a little over 500. They'll take that, I guess. Last year was much better. They had some huge improvements. They aren't going to have Travis Hunter. They're not going to have Shedeur and whoever else might have either been a free agent or a draft pick out of Colorado last year, this past year. But I'll tell you what, John, they have gone to the portal, and your guy Deion has absolutely crushed it in the portal. He's number 19 out of all the schools that are out there in the portal. He's number 19. He's got 28 commits, four 4-star guys. He's also got 23 3-star guys. And 7 transfers on the offensive side are already slotted to be starters for Colorado this coming fall.
Wow.
So interesting to see what they did. One of them being the quarterback, obviously. You got to replace the quarterback, but it's going to be pretty interesting. What do you think? It's really, really early. We haven't seen a daggone thing. We don't know. But what do you think? Is Deion a really good coach, or did he have really good players? Because those players might not be as good as what they had, especially those 2 that we highlight.
Yeah, I would say that Deion is a good coach, a great recruiter, and just a good coach. And, you know, if somebody wants to call me a hater for saying that, go ahead. But I've seen a lot of mistakes made on the field that I couldn't justify. And I don't think most other D1 schools could justify them. They, quite frankly, looked a little amateurish. But he is a hell of a recruiter. He has sold out that stadium. And I think we talked about it just a couple months ago, Pete. His new contract rivals any coach anywhere's contract. So what he does for the city of Boulder, with all the tourism that comes in for that school, with all of the applications that come in and so forth, it's measurable, but it's almost immeasurable because he does such a great job just by being Dion. But by being Dion, does that make him a great coach? No. And to your point, Travis Hunter made him a great coach. Shadur and Shiloh made him a great coach. We'll see. These guys that come in and start, do they have enough to be able to compete at that level again, as difficult as it was last year? I mean, keep in mind that his son, Pete, threw whatever, 70% completions or whatever the heck it was.
Not too bad.
3,900 yards or whatever, 36 touchdowns. I mean, you know, it was a heck of a year for the Buffalo. I don't know if they're going to repeat that this year, but I think we'll get a better look at what kind of coach he is, not just what kind of father he was to a couple of the best to play in a long time, along with their friend Travis Hunter.
They lost some talent. They brought in some talent. We'll see how it all goes, and then we'll see a lot more about what his coaching skills really look like, because how many guys in the NFL this past year were telling us, John, hey, looks like we might be seeing Dion go to the Cowboys, or we might see Dion. I'm not sure that actually really was ever on the table. It was probably fun to talk about, but I'm not sure that was truly on the table. So it'll be interesting. It'll be a lot of fun to see how he does this year as a coach. The Big 12 is a great conference, and they get better and better every year.
Yep. Well, thank you for joining us today, folks. Again, I'm here at the Wall Street Conference. Pete and I enjoy working with a lot of these small cap companies and so forth. And shoot, there are some of them that are here, Pete, that we've helped raise 30, 40, 50 million bucks for with the crowdfunding and so forth. So we'll be telling you about some of those as the weeks progress, but let's just get after it today. Let's trade them up. Like I say, the NASDAQ is now up over 70 points on the day. So it's looking like they're liking the NASDAQ again, Pete. Let's get together again tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern time. See you then, folks.